again for the Data Roundtable. How are you? How you been? I had to cancel yesterday's stream because my coaching calls always take priority. But I'm back. I'm here to listen. I'm here to hold space. I'm here to facilitate for us talking together as data professionals and saying, what do you got going on? What are you working on? What's got you interested? What's got you excited? What's got you interested? What's got you coding? The whole purpose of this data roundtable is that I walk in with no agenda and we just see where the conversation takes us. We've had some great conversations in this series, a lot of really good topics. And as I've said before, it's really interesting that we get some elevated topics here on the YouTube side. On the Instagram side, it's a different type of topic. Not bad. I love the Instagram side. But it's just funny to see the differences between the two. I think it's fascinating. But anyways, I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here to facilitate whatever conversation we want to have. How are you? Are you doing well? It's Tuesday. The work week is underway for all of us. So what are you up to? You working on anything good? What are you doing today to improve yourself? How many job applications did you send out? How many people read your resume this week? How many times did you practice your interview skills this week? All of those little things can help you improve, right? All those tiny little changes, all those little improvements, they mean something. They mean something over the long term. So what are you doing right now, today, to help you with that? Let me know. For me, I got up early. I went out, got my coffee, took my dog out to the dog park, came back. I'm doing some work. I got a lot of work to do. A lot of coaching calls today, too. My coaching business is growing. So if you'd like some information on that, please click on the link in my bio. But I am working on a variety of things right now. Busy day. So really, really happy to be able to start my day with you and then move on to other things. Michael, good morning, Michael. How are you, my friend? Michael says, morning, Dennis. Morning to you too, Michael. Hope you're doing well out there on the East Coast. I assume that things are cooling down a little bit more for you on the weather side. Things are definitely cooling down on my end. But yeah, glad to see you here, Michael. I'm glad that you're well. Hope that both you and your son are well. Your son, the golfer, that is. So yeah, so anybody who wants to join in, please let me know what you'd like to talk about, what's on your mind. What's the last good AI tool you used? What was the last disappointing AI tool you used? Let me know. Michael says, all good here. Yes, you can smell you can smell the pumpkin spice in the air. Indeed you can, Michael. Indeed you can. It's not fall, it's pumpkin spice season for sure. Michael, another thing I've noticed, and I obviously I think it's due to back to school, but everywhere is busier now in the mornings. When I go to the dog park, I'm seeing more traffic. When I go in the drive-through for coffee, the drive-through is longer. Where did all these pumpkin spice people come from? They must have been hibernating during the summer, but now that it's pumpkin spice and back to school and all that, it's definitely more people out, more traffic in the mornings for sure. So for those of you that don't know, maybe you're outside of the U.S., because I don't think pumpkin spice is a thing outside the U.S., maybe in Europe, but pumpkin spice is like a flavoring or a spice that is very popular here in the U.S. particularly for coffee. But there's all kinds of pumpkin spice something, and it makes people feel like the fall is coming. The holidays are coming, this time of the year. We're going into a lot of holidays in the U.S. with Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year. So, yeah, pumpkin spice is definitely a thing. And it's very popular with the soccer mom and all the Karens out there. Karens love pumpkin spice, right? So for those of you that don't know what that is, it's kind of like it's a commercial thing, right? It's all commercialization. It's a commercial thing that we have here in the U.S., but you can find pumpkin spice coffee, pumpkin spice cheesecake, pumpkin spice omelets. I'm sure somebody has omelets. You can find pancakes, everything that you could put a spice on, you'll find pumpkin spice something for it. So That's what we're referring to there. But yeah, Michael, glad that you're well, and Let me know if you're enjoying some of the pumpkin spice. You know, I had a pumpkin spice coffee from McDonald's yesterday, which was not half bad. It was not half bad for, for being McDonald's coffee. Michael says, what are your thoughts on local LLMs, benefits, risks from the perspective of an org with a lot of confidential info? Yeah, great question, Michael. And that's a question that I think a lot of orgs are currently or they're going to have to start dealing with, right? Because there are plenty of organizations that are going to want some sort of on-premise solution. So great question. I don't know if we can say that there's been a winner in that space yet, right? I think the closest you're going to get is some of the tools from Meta, right? The Llama and the Olama LLMs, right? Now, when I say that, to me, they seem to have the quickest path to implementation. Does that make them the best? Maybe, maybe not, right? But I do think that they're probably the leaders in what is still to be defined, right? So they're the leaders, but not the winners, right? The race is still long. So that's what I would say, Michael. Benefits and risks. The benefits I think are obvious as far as the security levels and things like that, right? There's a ton of companies that are going to want very, very granular control over access and all that, right? And data retention and all that, right? The risk is you're going to have to invest more in validation. Just because one of the things that we're kind of spoiled by is that we all see the finished product of OpenAI and Grok and Claude, whoever else, right? But there's a lot of validation and testing that goes into those releases, like a ton, right? We may not see it, but it happens. So I think the biggest risk, Michael, is that how much human validation are you willing to put into that? In my experience, most companies completely stink at human validation, right? So, yeah, I mean, just because you're going to deploy it and because it's open source Meta or whatever, and because our IT department did it, doesn't mean you're going to get good answers. Doesn't mean you're going to have the same lowered hallucination rates that we're getting in some of the latest LLMs. What if you deploy something, you have high hallucination rates, but you just don't know it? That can happen, right? Or also, you're going to have to consider the document management of it all. So, Michael, you're talking about internal organizations, right? And let's say you're talking about medical organizations. That's an industry organization or whatever that has a lot of evergreen documents, right? They can have a lot of documents that are new on a daily basis. How are you going to manage that? How are you going to manage that from both a retraining perspective and a perspective of what documents trump other documents, right? What happens when you have a document that has 10 versions produced in a year? How are you going to manage that? How are you going to make sure that your LLM is giving you the answer from the latest version, not 3 versions ago? Very difficult, right? It's not an insurmountable problem, but it's something. But it's definitely something you got to be aware of, and you gotta get ahead of, right? So yeah, Michael. I mean, obviously, Michael, you know how to reach me. Happy to talk more with you on this topic, but those are just kind of like the thoughts off the top of my head. But if anybody listening is involved in that, from a data scientist perspective, you also have to make sure that you're setting those expectations up front. Because otherwise, you're setting yourself up for people to come back to you and say, well, OpenAI gives me great answers and your LLM didn't give me good answers. What the heck? Well, that's because OpenAI probably has a staff of a couple hundred validators, right? Maybe more. I don't know. Right? So keep that in mind, that from a data scientist perspective, you also have to manage those those expectations and say, yes, we can do it on premise. Yes, we can manage it in house. But unless you're willing to do X, Y, and Z, we're not necessarily going to get the same results or the same accuracy or the same, lowered hallucinations, right? So to me, Michael, that question doesn't have a technical limitation. It's more of a people limitation. It's more of a people policy type of limitations. But yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to do, you can proceed with some of the meta stuff. Like I said, some of the llama tools, with the understanding that there may be better on-premise solutions up ahead. That's likely to happen. Whether it's from Meta or somebody else, I don't know. But they're the leaders, but not the winners just yet. So that part is relatively straightforward. But after that, it's all people and policy and resources and the standard stuff you have to deal with in projects. So yeah, great question, Michael. I'm glad you're thinking about this, and I think a lot of companies are going to be thinking about this, right? And if they're not already, they should be. They absolutely should be. Michael says, thanks, Dennis. Yeah, anytime, Michael. Yeah, like I said, if you want more, you want to talk more detail in this, happy to do it. You know how to reach me. But yeah, it's something that companies should be paying more and more attention to. It's it's always funny how people overestimate the usage of cloud by companies. There's plenty of companies and industries out there that don't use cloud, right? So yeah, having on-premise LLM solutions is going to be a massive, massive need. It arguably already is. There's plenty of companies that won't touch the cloud. So that's why I always find it funny when people say, "Oh, I got to go out and get the Google certificate. I gotta be an expert in AWS." Not always. Not always. There's plenty of people who have no interest in that. Well, plenty of companies that have no interest in that, I should say. So, yeah, good question, Michael. All right, guys. So this feels like a natural transition point. I'm going to switch over to Instagram. So thank you so much for joining in. Really appreciate you. As always, I'm here 1500 GMT. So whatever time this is in your time zone, this is usually when I stream. A couple days off here and there. But as always, please take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I will see you tomorrow.